On Christmas Eve, most people are home with family. But some people work holidays. Some people prefer solitude. And some people, like David Reese, use the empty winter trails as an escape from the pressure of seasonal expectations. David was a solo winter hiker, experienced with cold weather camping, comfortable being alone in the mountains when everyone else was gathered around fireplaces and dinner tables. He'd hiked the Presidential Range in New Hampshire dozens of times. On December 24th, he started up the Ammonoosuc Ravine Trail toward the summit of Mount Washington, planning to spend Christmas Eve in his tent at elevation, away from the world. The weather was clear when he started, temperature around 20 degrees, light wind, good visibility. Winter hiking requires different skills than summer hiking, and David had them. Proper layering, navigation experience, understanding of how cold affects the body and mind. He carried gear for overnight winter camping and enough supplies for 3 days if weather turned. This was routine for him, solo, quiet, exactly what he wanted. He made good time on the ascent. The trail was packed snow, solid footing, well marked. He passed treeline around 2 p.m., entering the alpine zone where wind picked up and temperature dropped. He was heading for a flat area he knew about, sheltered by rock formations. Good spot for a winter tent. He'd camped there before. Knew the location. Knew it would be empty on Christmas Eve because sane people were home with their families. At 3:15 p.m., about a mile from his intended campsite, David saw other hikers, 3 of them, descending toward him. He was surprised. He'd expected to be alone up here. But there they were, moving steadily down the trail. As they got closer, David noticed their clothing. Heavy wool coats. Old-style packs. External frame backpacks, like the ones from decades ago. Leather boots. One of them wore a knit cap style David recognized from vintage photographs. The first hiker, a man in his 30s, smiled as they approached. "Afternoon. Beautiful day for it." "Yeah," David said. "You guys heading down?" "Heading home," the man said. "Gotta make it home for Christmas. Family's waiting." David nodded. Made sense. Christmas Eve. People trying to get down before dark. "You've got a few hours of daylight. Should make good time." "We'll make it," the man said confidently. "We've been making good progress. Been hiking since morning. This is the year we get home. I can feel it." There was something odd about the phrasing, something about the certainty, but David didn't think much of it. Just hikers being optimistic. He moved aside to let them pass. They continued down. David continued up. At 4 p.m., he encountered another hiker. A woman, maybe 50 years old. She wore a bright blue parka that looked like something from the 1980s. Puffy insulation, specific cut and style that David associated with old ski films. She was moving upward, same direction as David. "Excuse me," David called out. "Are you heading to the summit?" "Heading home," she said. "Just need to get over this ridge, then down the other side. Home's that way." She pointed vaguely east. "There's no maintained trail east from here," David said. "If you're trying to get to Pinkham Notch, you need to go back down this trail and take the—" "I know the way," she said firmly. "I've done this before. Just need to get home. Family's expecting me. It's Christmas Eve." "Right, but—" "I'll make it this year," she said. "This is the year. I can feel it." She continued past him, heading upward into terrain that didn't have a trail going east, heading into wilderness that would get her more lost, not less. David hesitated. Should he stop her, follow her? She seemed confident, seemed to know where she was going, but she was heading off trail in winter conditions, toward nothing but alpine terrain and eventual cliffs. That was dangerous, potentially fatal. "Hey!" David called after her. "Seriously, there's no trail that way." "You should." But she was already disappearing into the rocks above the trail, moving with purpose, convinced she was going home. David stood there, troubled. He pulled out his phone. No signal. Not unusual at this elevation. He'd have to descend to report someone heading into dangerous terrain. But by the time SAR mobilized, she could be anywhere. And maybe she knew something he didn't. Maybe there was a route he wasn't aware of. He continued to his campsite, set up his tent, secured it against wind, organized his gear. As he worked, he kept thinking about the hikers, about their clothing, about the way they spoke. This is the year. Like they'd been trying for multiple years. Like getting home for Christmas was something they'd been attempting over and over. At 5:30 p.m., as the sun was setting and temperature was dropping fast, David heard voices. Multiple people, talking, laughing. He unzipped his tent and looked out. There were 6 hikers gathered about 50 yards from his tent. 6 people in a loose group, all wearing winter gear that looked wrong. Old. Vintage. One man wore a wool peacoat style David associated with World War II. A woman wore a ski outfit that looked like something from the 1960s. Matching jacket and pants, bright colors, old-fashioned cut. Another man wore an 80s style down jacket, the kind with horizontal baffles and a specific puffy aesthetic that hadn't been popular in decades. They were talking animatedly, excited. David caught fragments of conversation. Make it this year for sure. Family will be so surprised. Been so long since I've seen them. Christmas dinner, can't miss it. David approached them slowly. Hey, are you guys okay? It's getting dark. Do you have shelter? They all turned to look at him. Smiling, friendly. We're fine, the man in the peacoat said. Just resting before the final push. Gotta make it home tonight. Can't miss Christmas. Where's home? David asked. Down in Bretton Woods, one woman said. Just a few more miles. Conway, another man said. North Conway, the woman in the 60s ski outfit said. They were naming different towns. Different directions. But all of them seemed convinced they were almost home, almost there. Just a little further. It's Christmas Eve, the peacoat man said. Most important night of the year. Family gathered, tree decorated, dinner ready. We've been hiking all day, but we'll make it. This is the year. How long have you been hiking? David asked. Since morning, the man said. Left early. Wanted to make sure we had enough time. What day did you start? David pressed. The man looked confused. Today. This morning, December 24th. What year? David asked. 1945, the man said, then laughed. Sorry, that's a strange question. Why would you? It's 1945. December 24th, 1945. I've been overseas. Finally made it back stateside. Couldn't wait to get home. Told my wife I'd be home for Christmas. So I'm hiking through. It's faster than waiting for the bus. I'll make it. David felt cold. That had nothing to do with temperature. It's not 1945. It's 2024. The man laughed harder. What? No, it's... He pulled out a pocket watch, checked it. It's December 24th, 1945, 6 p.m. I've still got time. 6 hours to midnight. Plenty of time to get home. The woman in the 60s ski outfit was nodding. I started this morning, too. December 24th, 1968. Told my kids I'd be back before they went to bed. Just a quick hike. Clear my head. But I'll make it back. I always make it back. 1987. The man in the 80s jacket said. December 24th, 1987. My parents are expecting me. Big family gathering. I left early to get some exercise. But I got turned around. I've been finding my way back. It's taken longer than expected, but I'll make it. This is the year I make it home. David looked at all of them. 6 people. All convinced it was the year they'd started hiking. All convinced they were about to make it home. All wearing clothing from the eras they believed they were in. And none of them seemed to realize that decades had passed. That their families were gone. That they'd been hiking forever, trying to get home for a Christmas that was already long past. You've been walking for decades, David said quietly. All of you. You're not going to make it home. your families, the people you're trying to reach, they're gone. It's been years, decades. No, the peacoat man said firmly. No, it's today. It's Christmas Eve. I'm going home. We're all going home. This is the year, the 60s woman said. We can feel it. This is finally the year we make it. They started gathering their packs, getting ready to continue. David noticed the packs looked old, weathered, like they'd been carried for years, like they'd been through storms and seasons and decades of use. But the hikers didn't seem to see that, didn't seem to notice how worn their gear was, how vintage their clothing, how impossible their situation. You should come with us, the peacoat man said to David. We're all heading home. There's strength in numbers. You'd make it for sure if you came with us. I don't need to. Everyone should be home for Christmas, the 1987 man said. It's important. Family's important. You look like someone who should be with family. Not alone up here. Come with us. We'll all make it together. Where exactly are you heading? David asked. They all pointed. Different directions. East, west, south. None of them pointing the same way. None of them seeming to notice that their directions contradicted each other. That way, the peacoat man said, pointing east into terrain David knew ended in cliffs. Home, the 60s woman said, pointing west into wilderness. Just over that ridge, the 80s man said, pointing south into an area with no trails, no towns, nothing but mountains. They were all wrong, all heading in directions that led nowhere. But all of them were certain. All of them believed completely that home was just ahead, just a little further, just over the next ridge. I'm staying here, David said. I'm camping here tonight. On Christmas Eve? The peacoat man looked shocked. You can't camp on Christmas Eve. You need to be home. Family needs you. They're waiting. They'll worry if you don't show up. I don't have family waiting, David said. I chose to be here. I want to be here. Everyone has family, the 60s woman said. Everyone has somewhere to be on Christmas. You can't just stay out here alone. That's not right. Come with us. We'll help you get home. They were gathering around him now, 6 of them, forming a loose circle, all smiling, all friendly. But David felt trapped, felt like they were closing in. We need to start moving, the 80s man said. Getting dark, but we'll make it. We always make it this far. And this year we'll go all the way. We'll get home. You should come. You should be part of this. The year everyone makes it home. I can't, David said, backing toward his tent. I'm staying here. You guys go ahead. But you'll be alone, the peacoat man said, on Christmas Eve. That's no good. That's not how it should be. Christmas is about being together, about family, about home. You should come home with us. This is my home tonight, David said, pointing at his tent. Right here. The hikers looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Then the peacoat man spoke again. We'll wait until you change your mind. We have time. Still hours until midnight. Still time for everyone to make it home. They sat down, right there, in a circle around David's tent, 6 people in vintage clothing, settling into the snow, preparing to wait. And David realized they weren't leaving, weren't continuing their hike. They were staying, waiting for him to join them, waiting for him to become another hiker trying to get home for Christmas. David got into his tent, zipped it shut, listened. The hikers were talking outside. Quiet conversations, talking about their families, about what they'd find when they got home, about the Christmas dinners waiting, about the children who'd be excited to see them, about spouses and parents and siblings who were worried but would be so relieved when they finally walked through the door. All of it in present tense. All of it as if these people were still alive, still waiting, still preparing Christmas dinner for family members who'd disappeared decades ago. David pulled out his sleeping bag, tried to settle in, but he couldn't stop listening, couldn't stop hearing them talk about getting home, about how this was the year, about how they just needed to keep trying, Keep hiking, keep moving towards something that had stopped existing generations ago. At 8 p.m., the peacoat man called out, "David, are you sure you won't come? We're going to start moving soon. You could join us. We'd help you get home." "I'm staying here," David said. "Think about your family," the man said. "Think about them waiting. Think about how worried they'll be, how disappointed, Christmas morning, and you're not there. How will that feel? For them? For you?" David had complicated feelings about family, about holidays. That's why he was here. That's why he'd chosen to be alone. But the man's words dug into old guilts, old obligations, old feelings of disappointing people, of not being where he was supposed to be, of missing expectations. "Come home," the 60s woman said. "Just come home. That's all anyone wants, to be home for Christmas. Don't you want that?" "I want to be here," David said, but his voice was less certain. "No one wants to be alone," the 80s man said. "Not really, not on Christmas. Deep down, you want to be home. You want to be with people. You want to belong somewhere. We understand that. We're all trying to get home too. We can help each other." David felt the pull, the emotional manipulation, the way they were targeting his loneliness, his guilt, his complicated feelings about where he belonged. They were good at this, had decades to practice, decades of waiting in these mountains, trying to recruit people to join their eternal hike home. "How many others have you convinced?" David asked. "How many other hikers have joined you?" Silence. Then the peacoat man spoke. "We help people get home. That's all. Everyone who wants to get home for Christmas, we help them. We're a community. We support each other. The mountain can be lonely, but together we make it. Together we get home." "You never make it home," David said. "You've been hiking for decades, all of you. You die up here trying to get home and you just keep hiking. You don't realize you're dead. You don't realize you're stuck. And you want me to join you, to become another one of you, another person hiking forever, convinced the next ridge will be the one, convinced this year is different." More silence, longer this time. Then the 60s woman spoke, and her voice was different, colder, less friendly. "We're going home. We will make it. We've just been delayed. Weather, trail conditions, confusion about the route. But we're close. We're always close. And this year it's different. This year we have enough of us. Enough to make it all the way. You'd help. One more person, one more, to share the load, to share the journey. You should come." "I'm not coming," David said. He heard them stand up, heard them gather their packs, heard them start to move. But not away. They were circling his tent, walking around it, around and around, creating a path in the snow, a circle, a loop. "We'll show you the way," the peacoat man said. "We'll show you how to get home. Just follow us. Just start walking. It's easy. Everyone can get home. You just have to want it. Just have to commit. Just have to start walking and never stop." David realized what they were doing, creating a path, a loop around his tent, a trail that went nowhere. And if he stepped onto it, if he started following them, he'd become part of their circle, part of their eternal hike, walking in loops through the mountains, convinced every step was taking him home. He stayed in his tent, stayed still, didn't move, didn't respond, just listened as they circled. Hours of circling, creating deeper and deeper tracks in the snow, creating a path that was starting to look like a real trail, a trail that hikers would follow, a trail that led nowhere but looked like it led home. At midnight, they stopped. Christmas had arrived. The hikers stood outside his tent in silence. Then the peacoat man spoke one last time. "Merry Christmas, David. We hope you make it home. We hope you find your family. We hope you know where you belong, because we know where we belong, and we're going there. Right now, we're going home." They started walking. David heard their footsteps, heard them leave. He waited 30 minutes, then unzipped his tent and looked out. The hikers were gone, but the circular path they'd created remained. A deep trail in the snow, going around and around where his tent stood. And in the moonlight, David could see other trails, other circular paths throughout the area, loops that went nowhere, paths created by hikers walking in circles, convinced they were making progress, convinced they were getting close to home. David packed up immediately, took down his tent, gathered his gear, started descending. He didn't follow any of the trails, cut across them, broke away from the paths, went straight down slope toward the maintained trail he knew led to actual civilization. As he descended, he saw them, the hikers, scattered across the mountainside, walking their loops, some alone, some in groups, all moving with purpose, all convinced they were making progress, all heading home for Christmas. A woman in 1950s clothing, walking in circles near tree line. A man in 1970s gear, looping around a rock formation, each circuit bringing him back to where he started. A group from the 1990s walking together, encouraging each other, convinced they were almost there. All of them trapped, all of them hiking forever. All of them trying to get home for Christmas, unaware that Christmas had come and gone decades ago, unaware that home was gone, unaware that they were stuck in loops of their own creation, walking the same paths over and over, year after year, convinced this year would be different. David made it down to the parking lot at 4 a.m. Christmas morning. His car was covered in snow. He brushed it off, started the engine, turned on the heat, sat there shaking, not from cold, from realization, from understanding what he'd seen, what he'd almost joined. He drove home, to his apartment. His empty apartment that he'd left to avoid feeling lonely on Christmas. But the emptiness felt different now, felt like a choice, felt like freedom. Because he could leave, could go somewhere else, could change his mind, could move, could live. The hikers on the mountain couldn't. They were stuck in their loops, stuck in their belief that home was just ahead, stuck in Christmas Eve of the year they died, forever trying to make it home, forever failing, forever trying again. David filed a report with the national park, mentioned seeing hikers in distress, mentioned people who seemed confused about location and time. The ranger he spoke to listened carefully, asked specific questions about where he'd seen them, what they were wearing, what they'd said. "We get reports like this every year," the ranger said quietly. "Around the holidays, hikers see other people in vintage clothing, people who think it's decades ago. People trying to get home for Christmas. We send teams up, never find anyone. Just trails, lots of circular trails, loops that go nowhere. We mark them on our maps, warn people not to follow them. But every year, someone does. Every year, someone decides to follow a loop, thinking it leads somewhere. And sometimes, those people don't come back." "How many?" David asked. "Are on the mountain, doing their loops?" The ranger looked at his records. "We have 43 missing person cases from the presidential range. All winter disappearances. All around Christmas. All last seen heading upward, toward the summit. None of them ever found. But hikers report seeing them, year after year. Same people, same clothing, same conversations about getting home." "Why don't you close the trails?" David asked. "Close the trails because of ghost stories?" The ranger shook his head. "We can't. We warn people. We mark the circular trails. We tell people not to hike alone in winter, not to hike on Christmas Eve. But people still do. People still think they'll be different, think they'll be safe. And some of them join the loops, join the hikers, start walking circles, convinced they're making progress." David left, drove away, tried to return to normal life. But he couldn't stop thinking about them, about the peacoat man trying to get home to a wife who died in the 1970s. About the 60s woman trying to reach kids who were now elderly themselves, if they were still alive. About the 80s man trying to make it to a family gathering that had happened and ended decades ago. All of them walking, all of them trying, All of them convinced this year was different. This year they'd make it. This year they'd finally get home for Christmas. David checked missing person records. Found names. Found faces. Found the peacoat man, Harold Jennings, disappeared December 24th, 1945. Last seen hiking toward Mount Washington, never found. Found the 60s woman, Patricia Morrison, disappeared December 24th, 1968. Solo hike, never returned. Found the 80s man, Michael Torres, disappeared December 24th, 1987. Day hike, car found at trailhead, body never recovered. All of them, all 43. All disappeared on December 24th. All trying to get somewhere. All convinced they'd make it home. All wrong. And every year, more people see them, more people encounter the Christmas hikers, more people are invited to join, to come home, to be part of the group, to walk together towards something that doesn't exist anymore. David doesn't hike alone in winter anymore, doesn't hike on Christmas Eve. And when people ask him where he was last Christmas, he tells them he was home. Because he was. He made it home. He didn't join the loops, didn't start walking circles, didn't become another hiker trying to get home for Christmas, walking forever, never arriving, always trying. But somewhere on Mount Washington, they're still walking, still trying, still convinced this year is different. This year they'll make it. This year they'll finally get home for Christmas. And they're waiting, waiting for others, waiting for someone lonely enough, guilty enough, lost enough to join them, to start walking the loops, to become another Christmas hiker, forever trying to get home.